Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. I wanted to record this video because I just had a conversation with a subscriber, and this subscriber sparked a lot of thoughts in my head based upon the things that they were saying. And as I was reading what this person was saying, I honestly debated whether I wanted to respond to them. And then I debated whether I wanted to create a video summarizing my actual response once I decided to respond to them. And part of the reason why I decided to respond to them and also to create this video is because I think that I may be able to help. That is part of why I have this channel, is to help people to make sense of comic book collecting by giving people some things to think about, to maybe challenge some of their beliefs and maybe assertions. And not to say that the people are wrong, but simply to say, hey, here's another way to kind of think about this. And so what this person brought up in their comments was a couple of things. They struggle with paying more than $500 for a comic. And honestly, that's a little bit of a legit struggle. I actually have a video here on the channel where I talk about how you need to be ready to spend big money because $500 is a lot of money. But this person said that they struggled with spending more than $500 for a comic, which I completely get. They also indicated that they had a desire to get some major keys like Hulk 1, X-Men 1, Incredible Hulk 181, X-Men 1, right? Like these major keys. And so those two things are a little bit in conflict with one another, spending no more than $500 and going after major keys. And as I continued to kind of read through this person's comments and ultimately have the back and forth with them, it seemed that what they were attempting to do was to have some guarantees that if they spend a certain amount of money, that they would not lose that money in any way, shape, or form. And part of what I struggle with is the fact that there are no guarantees. There literally are no guarantees in any of this. And if we look at Amazing Fantasy 15, one of the premier blue chip comics that was out there. In 2020, this comic was actually down 20 to 30%, right? That's real money depending upon what you're buying. That's legit money. So there are no guarantees that any comic is going to retain its value. But this person goes on to say how instead of spending that big money, instead of going after these big keys, which may or may not have guarantees, right? They are instead choosing to buy books like first appearances of some characters, and I'm guessing like lesser known characters, books that have, short print runs or limited print runs, rare books that are maybe hard to find. And there may be people out there that will appreciate where this person is coming from. Again, I'm not saying that they're wrong in their thinking, but I do want to challenge it. So the notion that if they buy, limited print runs, if they buy first appearances of lesser known characters, if they buy rare, maybe modern variants, the assertion is that there is some guarantee that those books will retain their value long term. As I've mentioned, there are no guarantees. There's no guarantees here other than like death and taxes. And technically, you don't even have to pay taxes. You might go to jail, but you don't have to pay taxes. But death is one of those things that you can be assured of. But what's really interesting is that when you think about it, over the course of 2021, we have seen several instances where there should be doubt in someone's mind about whether something is truly a rare modern comic or not, whether something is a limited print run or not. We should be cautious about that belief. And I say that because we have seen these ghost books, these rare books, these hard to find books, these exclusive variants show up in auctions in large numbers. We've seen them show up in Walmart 3-packs in large numbers around the country. We've seen it happen. We've seen things happen with certificates of authenticity over the course of this year. Things that were supposed to be limited and, certificates of authenticity issued to limit their print. We've found that maybe isn't true or is questionable, right? So this idea of buying those types of books because there is a guarantee, I do not think that that is accurate. And again, there are no guarantees with any of this. Well, with that said, I can promise you one thing. I can promise you that if you get caught up in FOMO, if you buy some of these rare books, some of these hard to find books, some of these modern high price variants, that you'll never get a really awesome comic. You'll never get AF-15 or Hulk 1 or, X-Men 1 or whatever it happens to be, because you're getting caught up and you're spending your money and you're diluting your ability to save and accumulate enough cash to buy one of those major books. That is something that I can guarantee that it probably will not happen. Now this is not to say that you shouldn't buy those books. If you are buying modern comics because you love the art, or you just appreciate the character, even though it's not a top tier character, but you want that first appearance, if you're buying any of that stuff and it makes you happy, if it fulfills a need that you have as a collector, by all means, continue to do that. There is nothing wrong with it. Hard stop. Now, if you're buying those things, but what you really want is a mega key, and you're buying these things simply to buy them and to appease yourself, but they're not really making you happy, then that's a little bit of a problem, because those things are to some degree in conflict with one another. You are saying you want this thing, yet you're doing something else that is in direct conflict with your ability to attain that goal. That's a problem. If you are unable to spend, for some reason or another, big money, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, if you have something there, you owe it to yourself to examine why. Why do you have that limitation of self? Maybe it's a legit reason why you don't want to spend that money. That's actually okay. But if you're not spending that money just because you have an inability to wrap your mind around it, then you owe it to yourself to think about it a little bit more, to challenge yourself and to ask yourself some really tough questions about what's actually important to you. If you want to build an amazing collection, if you want mega keys, if you want major comics, then you have to spend some money. It's just part of it. But you have to do what makes sense to you. You have to do something that that allows you to sleep at night and not be worried about it. If you don't make a ton of money, don't go out and buy crazy keys. Like, it's super simple, right? But if there's something else at play, you owe it to yourself to challenge your thinking just a little bit. And again, with this hobby, there are no true guarantees. There is no guarantee that a comic that you buy today will not go up in value or down in value. We don't really know what's going to happen. I can tell you for a fact that my personal collection probably has quadrupled in value over the last 18 to 24 months, and I'm very thankful for that. Do I know that that's going to remain consistent into the future? I have no clue. I have absolutely no clue, but I'm still optimistic, and I will also say that in every case, by and large, when I bought one of the books that is in my collection, or even the collection as a whole, I gave serious consideration to what I was doing, why I was doing it. I was asking myself some tough questions around, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right way to spend my money? And I can tell you that I would not have done those things if I had not taken the time to do my due diligence, to arrive at my own conclusions, to arrive at something that made sense. Now, did I push myself? Did I stretch myself in some cases? Absolutely. Absolutely. Growth is uncomfortable. Buying a collection of 100,000 comics is not something you do without thought. It is not something you do without a little, angst and some butterflies, right? But I spent time thinking through it. I spent time asking myself tough questions. I spent time bouncing ideas off of my wife, for example, and ultimately pulled the trigger because it made sense. It doesn't matter whether you're buying 100,000 comics or a comic worth $100,000 or the equivalent with whatever your means are, right? It could be $1,000. Give thought to it. Make sure that it makes sense, but don't be afraid to stretch yourself, to challenge yourself a little bit, safely, Safely, of course. Don't jump off the cliff without a parachute and some safety checks, right? You want to take some time to think about it. But again, I wanted to create this video because I think that maybe there is something that I've said here that may help someone out there. And again, at the end of the day, this channel was all about helping people to make sense of comic book collecting. And one last shameless plug here, if you have not yet picked up a copy of the Guide to Smart Comic Collecting, the second print, I definitely want to encourage you to think about doing it. The guide is roughly 90 pages and it is full of practical tips, advice, pointers on all aspects of comic book collecting, comic book cleaning, investment, speculation, comics as escapism, original art, you name it, there's something in there that might resonate with you. So you can actually pick up a copy of the guide at regiecollects.com. As always, if you enjoyed this video, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button, to leave a comment behind. And also, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.